What is going on, guys? Mikey P Games here, and we are here for the Week 7 edition of our NFL Weekly podcast. Dom had a job interview today, so he will not be joining me. But as always, when I ride solo, I will go through our last week's results and look forward to next week while saying who we think both will win. Looking back on last week, Dom went 8-7, I went 9-6, so I was able to pull back up, and we are now tied at 50-42. Still horrible, but we're tied now. So it's make the best man win, I guess. Let's look ahead to Week 7 now. Week 7 kicks off with the Chicago Bears taking a trip to Green Bay to play the Packers. And the elephant in the room is this Green Bay Packers offense is not playing up to standards. I'm not going to say it's the running game. Eddie Lacy is having the best yards per carry average he's had his whole career. And this O-line, other than giving Eddie Lacy holes and helping him get yardage after contact, is giving Aaron Rodgers at least 5 seconds to make a play. In previous years, that was more than enough time for Aaron Rodgers. So while I do blame Aaron Rodgers for his poor play, he's missed his fair share of throws. His receivers are not helping him. Usually after about 3 seconds, you would see a receiver change his route to help get open so the quarterback can get rid of the ball. After 3 seconds, no one's still open. Aaron Rodgers is having about 5 seconds in the pocket to do something, and he just can't. I do think they win this game, and so does Dom. But that's only because they're going up against a poor Chicago Bears team. Despite them having a top 10 defense, I don't think that will be anywhere near close enough to stop him, because as Aaron Rodgers says, you need to relax. At some point, this Green Bay team will get back on track. Let's just hope, for the Packer fans' sake, that it's sooner rather than later. Chicago Bear-wise, yes, they sport that number 10 ranked defense. And Brian Hoyer has been a very good surprise since Jay Cutler went down. But with Kevin White on IR and all defenses tuning into Alshon Jeffrey now, I don't think that's going to be enough for the Bears to be able to escape with a W against a confused Green Bay Packers team. Next up, we got the New York Giants and the Los Angeles Rams playing in London at 9:30 in the morning on Sunday. And let's just say this. Odell and the net are engaged. It's happily ever after. While some people want to move on, some people are going to tune in next week just to see what happens with the net next. All points aside, the media is going to keep blowing this up. I do respect Odell for taking what people were making into hate and saying, all right, you want to blow it out of proportions in one way, I'll make you blow it out of proportions in the other way. Kudos to him. Big win for the Giants on Sunday. He had an amazing game. Eli, while it was a poor 2-interception game, he did have a historic day in his career. He threw his 300th touchdown. He had his 100th win. 200th consecutive start. So, good win for the Giants, even though they were almost cheated out of it. But let's get into this week's game. Dom has the Rams winning this game, so I'll start on that side of the ball. Last week, Tremaine Johnson was a huge loss for the defense of the Rams in that game against Detroit, and it does not look like he is going to play this week against the Giants in London. So it's just going to be another big task for that Rams defense to cover a lethal passing attack that the Giants possess. Heading over to the Giants side of the football, they have the third-ranked passing game through the first 6 weeks of the season, and Eli Manning is enjoying for the first time in his career to have a legitimate receiving core. Not just one weapon, not just two, but he has 3. He has a core of receivers that can make plays. He does not have to rely on finding the one open target. The running game is still a mess. But with the passing attack, I do expect that to be another good game for this Giants offense. The Rams, on the other hand, offensively have struggled. The Rams are still having an issue on offense, moving the ball up and down the field consistently. And the offensive line is something you have to blame when you look at what is at fault. Todd Gurley is not as consistent as he was last year, and I blame that on the offensive line. His talent is raw, and he will be a star back in this league throughout his career. but not behind this offensive line they have in place right now. Case Keenum has been surprising, to say the least, the last few weeks. While I don't think it's going to happen this week against the Giants, that could just be the homerism in me talking. But Case Keenum is still Case Keenum. He's no one special. Really, he shouldn't even be starting. But he has been surprising, to say the least. And maybe if he's able to continue that, along with a consistent run game from Todd Gurley in the offensive line, and maybe Kenny Britt putting on another unexpected show, the Rams have a chance. But I have no faith in that Rams offense to get a win. Giants are going to win this game. Starting off the 1 o'clock games, we have the Cleveland Browns heading to Cincinnati to take on the division rivals, the Bengals. And me and Don both think the Bengals are going to win this game. But let me start off by saying that this Bengals team has been very disappointing this season. A offense that looked like it could have been a good offense has been very lackluster this season. And the defense has not played any part in helping them out at all. But this is their confident boost week. This is where they're going to get back on track, or where they need to get back on track at least, if they want to make a push for the playoffs. Because believe it or not, we are almost halfway through the football season. I know, that's very depressing for most of us. But they're going against a poor Browns team who's 0-6, and really, can we expect them to win anytime soon? They have a third or fourth string rookie quarterback who has been a little surprising, but that's only because he was a third or fourth string quarterback to start the season. Terrell Pryor seems to be that guy that the team was missing offensively, but it doesn't help the fact that they can't consistently move the ball up and down the field as needed. And that 29th ranked defense that they have on the other side of the ball is not helping their cause at all, because they have come close to winning games this year, but the defense cannot help them out. So this is the week Cincinnati gets back on track. They win, they get a confident boost, and they start attempting, I say that very lightly, attempting their push for a playoff spot. Next up, we have an interesting game, to say the least, with Washington traveling to Detroit in a game that could be very interesting or a complete blowout. When it came time for me to make my decision, there were really only two things that I leaned on in making my decision. Number one was that me and Tom don't have many games that differ this week, so I'm looking for the edge on him in some kind of way to get one up at least. And number two is the Lions defense made the Rams offense look way better than it is. So I have to go with Washington. Dom's going with Detroit. Let's get those picks out of the way. Let me tell you why, though. Let's just look at it this way. Like I said, one of the reasons I'm picking Washington is because Detroit's defense made the Rams' offense look way better than it had to be. Going on to the Redskins side of the ball, it looks like Kirk Cousins, as painful as it is to say it, kicked his early start woes, and this team is starting to look like the defending conference champions that they were. This running game, especially the way it was against the Eagles, is something you can't put aside right now. I am going to stick by my statement that I feel like they are very fortunate in the way they have been winning lately, but last weekend's game against the Eagles was what impressed me the most about this team. They have a good run game. Kirk Cousins is starting to come along, so I gotta ride high on them for now. It hurts me to say it because the Giants are 3-3, sitting at the bottom of the division, and we really need some divisional losses here. But pick-wise, I think the Washington Redskins are going to win this game. Next up, we got the Oakland Raiders and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And these are two teams that I and Dom both rode pretty high early on in the season. So it's going to be interesting to see who we picked going into this game. Really, it wasn't that tough of a decision, to tell you the truth. We both picked Oakland. And the reason being is, yes, they got embarrassed by the Kansas City Chiefs last week. And they're facing a defense that can possibly do the same thing that they did to them last week. But it's the fact that the Oakland Raiders offense is able to come back in most games this season versus the up and down consistency the Jaguars offense has been having. Yes, the Jaguars have plenty of offensive weapons and talent down there, but they haven't been consistent. They haven't shown what they have in the past. Like last year, where everyone thought, all right, this young team is moving along. They could be a contender within the next year or two. But honestly, it just looks like that offense is taking a step back. While I do think it could potentially be a close game, only because of that Raiders 32nd ranked defense, I do think the Oakland Raiders win this game. Next up, we got the New Orleans Saints and the Kansas City Chiefs, and we both, Dom and I, have the New Orleans Saints winning this game. From my point of view, it's really just the fact that this Kansas City team, other than their game against a poor Oakland Raiders defense last week, hasn't been too impressive to me at the least. This defense is a good defense, mid-ranked defense, I would say, but I don't think that's going to be enough to slow down a high-powered offense they have in New Orleans. Not as scary as it used to be, but something that can still be threatening with the deep play-making abilities of Brandon Cooks. So let's really just look at it this way. High-powered offense by the Saints versus a good to average to good defense of the Kansas City Chiefs. So really, it's going to be a game where whose defense kind of steps up more, maybe? I really don't know. You have the high-power offense of the Saints going against a average to good defense of the Kansas City Chiefs, and then it kind of flips. A bad defense for the Saints and a okay offense for the Chiefs. So it could be a close game. It could be a shootout. It could be whoever touches the ball last, really. We both have the Saints, though, but it could go either way. Next up, we got AFC East showdown with the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. And let's really look at it this way. What the hell is going on in Buffalo? They get rid of their offensive coordinator, and they have won the last 4 games. That shows you right there how big one difference can make. Since that change, that has allowed the Buffalo Bills to have the top rushing attack in the NFL. Now, looking at the Dolphins, if it wasn't for playing the Browns and a Ben Roethlisberger Steelers team, they could easily be winless right now. So, let's put it like this. Sorry for the quick prediction here. Unless McCoy's injury that he had on Sunday is serious or he gets re-injured, or Tyrod Taylor and this offense just don't show up to Miami, Buffalo is going to walk out of this game victorious. Victorious! Let's just say this about this game. We have Baltimore and the Jets. Baltimore is coming back to MetLife Stadium where they had a close game with the New York Giants, even though personally I think the only way they're going to win that game is because of the cheated situation with the refs. But that's another topic. Baltimore is facing a poor New York Jets team. While that defensive line is scary, that secondary is weak. And they have a poor offense to go along with it. Geno Smith is starting this week for the Jets, so there's your answer right there alone. Baltimore's going to win this game. What should be an interesting matchup in my opinion, we have the Minnesota Vikings at the Philadelphia Eagles. We have the only undefeated team in the Vikings going up against what looked like a very impressive Eagles team the first 3 weeks, but now they have fallen their last 2, making it a 3-2 record. Me and Don both think the Vikings will win this one. The Eagles, they looked impressive through the first 3 weeks with their rookie quarterback and Pennsylvania and all that hoopla that was going on with the Eagles. But since their bye week, they have looked like a different, I wouldn't really say different team, but they look like they lost something over their bye week. So it's easy for me to go with, other than just looking at the record, the Vikings are the better team. They might even be the best team in the NFL right now. That might be pushing it, though. That's another conversation. Their offense has been playing mistake-free football, having no turnovers through the first 6 weeks of the season. And that defense has been very impressive. They're getting sacks, and they're creating turnovers. This could be a very bad game for Carson Wentz. While I do think the Eagles can put up a fight, I also think the Vikings won't have any problem keeping their L column at 0. Next up, we have the Colts at the Titans. And I really don't know what to think of the AFC South. a lot of disappointments coming out of this division, in my opinion. And I think that could really just keep continuing. Anything can happen in the South right now. It's wide open between really all 4 teams, considering the Jacksonville Jaguars just got their first win last week. But looking at this game, the Colts have the 30th ranked defense, and the Titans have the 10th ranked offense. It's hard for me to go against that. Marcus Mariota is having a pretty good sophomore year. While it was a slow start, the last 2 weeks he's had 6 touchdowns and only 1 interception. And that running game of the Titans is just fire. Complete fire. DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry are putting together a masterpiece duo, whatever you want to fucking call it. That backfield for the Titans offense is nasty. Looking at the Colts, they have Andrew Luck, T.Y. They have that offense. They just don't have a defense to help them close out the games. And that's a problem. As a Giants fan, I know that last year. We had a top-ranked offense. We didn't have a defense that can close out the games for us, though. That's an issue to win games. So that's why me and Dom both are going with the Tennessee Titans. Next up, we got the San Diego Chargers at the Atlanta Falcons, and this should be a less than interesting game, to be honest. I have Atlanta winning this game. Dom has San Diego, and the only reason I can think of Dom having San Diego is the same reason I always pick the Giants. Is that's his team. He's going to stand by them thick and thin. But the reason I got to take the Falcons is because they've just been hot this year. I know I said last week that I just can't believe in the team when they had a hot start last year, and then they fell off through the third quarter of the season, really the second half. But I look at it this way. As of right now, like Dom said last week, they're hot. They have the second-ranked passing offense, and they're going up against the 24th-ranked pass defense. Julio Jones cannot be contained, especially without Jason Verrett on the field. That being said, as poorly as the Chargers have been doing, they have found some success in getting points on the board, just not in huge amounts, and that defense as well can't really close out games. So if we were looking at a healthy Chargers team with little to no injuries to their key players, we could be saying the Chargers win this game. But the way we're looking at it right now, there's no one on that Chargers team stopping the Atlanta Falcons this weekend. Next up, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to the West Coast to take on the San Francisco 49ers. And this is going to be an ugly game. 2 poor teams trying to get a win, trying to stay relevant. Which really, at this point, the only team that can stay relevant with a win is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this game. Unless somehow the San Francisco 49ers find a way to win out. But Dom has the San Francisco 49ers, and really the only reason I could think this is, even though they got blown out last week, the team looks stronger with Colin Kaepernick under center. But that doesn't steer me away from the Buccaneers. I'm going with the Buccaneers for the pure reason of really, I don't know. That's really the pure reason. Both teams are poor, and I really can't put my finger on why I would go with either team, other than the one reason I can think of going with the 49ers, of that team looking a little stronger with Colin Kaepernick. But I look at the Buccaneers and just think there's something there that they're competitive. They were a team that I thought could compete for that second spot in the NFC South, with the Panthers being in first, but we all know how that's going so far, so I'm just going to leave my prediction alone, really, and I'm going to stick with my gun and say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Next up, we got New England at Pittsburgh, and this is really what me and Dom think the AFC Championship game is going to look like, but it's missing a key player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger is expected to miss at least the next 4 weeks. That's right, the next 4 weeks. So it could be a shaky road for the Pittsburgh Steelers here. But looking at this game, you got to go, all right, a hot New England team versus a Ben Roethlisberger Pittsburgh Steelers team. It's not that hard of a decision to say the New England Patriots are going to win this game for the pure reason that they don't have a quarterback on the Steelers right now that could beat this team. I'll eat my words if they end up finding a way to beat the Patriots, but that's highly unlikely. Next up, we got the Seattle Seahawks at the Arizona Cardinals, which is probably going to be the best matchup of this week. We have the Seahawks, who still sport a top defense and a offense that has taken a step backwards in recent years, but still finds a way to put up points. Then we have the Arizona Cardinals team that got off to a slow start, but is slowly starting to pick up its mojo from last year. They are beating bad teams by a good margin. So I wouldn't say all hopes is lost for this Arizona Cardinals team just yet. Me and Dom both have the Arizona Cardinals winning this game for the pure reason that they completely demolished the New York Jets on Monday night. And I know that's not saying much. The Jets are a piss poor team this year. But looking at that game, you gotta at least think it's some kind of confidence booster for this Arizona Cardinals team. The defense is getting back on track. David Johnson's a touchdown monster, and all they really need Carson Palmer to do is very little. Hand the ball off to David Johnson. Throw the ball to David Johnson. He can score that way too. Get it to Larry Fitzgerald, John Brown. This is a deep ball attacking team. If they can get the deep ball going, this team can be nearly unstoppable. That's why we both have Arizona. And to close up the week on Monday night, we probably have the biggest headliner game in Brock Osweiler's return to Denver. Now, the Broncos are coming off a disappointing loss to a division rival, as in the Chargers, but they aren't going up against a scary team. Guess Brock Osweiler and the Texans came back on Sunday night, forced overtime, and won the game, and then they started calling out all their fans for leaving early. Joke's on you. But let's look at it this way. Houston hasn't been very impressive, while the Broncos defense has held that team up other than these last 2 weeks. The Broncos in a whole have been more impressive. They have Trevor Siemian back. They were in that game until the last second. They had to come back, but they found a way back into it. So, really, it comes down to this. Who's the better team? And it's easily the Broncos. They have a better secondary, which is just drooling over the opportunity to get to Osweiler, because Osweiler came from Denver. I believe one of their players came out and said, we know Brock. Brock's from here. We want to kill him. I don't know if there's too much hate between them and Osweiler, but there's definitely going to be something going on between the two teams, just because of the fact that Brock left Denver for Houston solely for the money, really, because he had the starting gig in Denver under his fingers, under his hands, whatever you want to say the fucking slogan is there. But really, that's really going to be the key thing in this game. But besides the fact, it's going to be an easy win for Denver. That wraps up this edition of our weekly NFL podcast, the DMM Show. Hopefully, Dom figures out his work schedule so we can start recording this a little more flexible for the both of us. But that's about it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. In the comments, I want you guys to leave if you agree or disagree with our predictions. Maybe even leave your own. Let's see how the fans stack up against the podcasters week to week. Maybe you guys should take over for us, right? But any ideas, comments, suggestions, feedback is always appreciated. Leave them down in the comments area. I will read them. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on the DMM Show. Madden, I do have a few new things coming out this week, finally. So hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for that. But until next time, guys, peace.